Hello everyone and welcome back to Ask Polymath Getty, your polymathic source for all information, knowledge, and wisdom, mate. Alright, next question is from Liz in Texas. She says, I am an in-school suspension teacher. Last year during the study period, I would read short stories to the students with a moral. They are 12 to 15 years old and love this activity. This year, they have issued Google Chromebooks to students, and they would rather play video games during a 30-minute period. It is something mindless, and I noticed that they seem to zone out during the activity. They cannot read or write cursive. Many of them have never been read to. The question is, are we dumbing down the students and enforcing or promoting activities that provide 3-minute attention span? It makes my job easier because it seems like a babysitting tool when they finish an assignment. Their writing skills and comprehension skills, for the majority, don't appear good or as good as the skills of the students I had 30 years ago with no technology in the classroom. Also, I don't see a lot of creativity in the lessons the teachers send for the students to work on. Do you see the information highway as a positive or negative influence for the new generation? I guess an example of no technology would be Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone, and John Burroughs finding each other and going on camping trips sharing ideas. Okay. So the question basically is, are we dumbing down our students? The short answer is yes. And it's obvious enough to you because you're there and you see it all the time. It's also obvious to those of us who live in society who are not quite as dumbed down, who see the younger generation nowhere near where we were at their age, but they are doing things on the edge with life, with drugs and sexually and doing all kinds of things that you would think only a responsible human being would be able to make proper decisions for, and yet they can't even do a math problem. They can't even read a book. They don't even know how to write in cursive. They don't even know who Harvey Firestone, Thomas Jefferson, Henry Ford, John Burroughs is. You know, they don't know. They don't know anything about history. They don't know anything about anything. Yes, the millennials and the younger ones after them, I think they are Generation Zers. They're not very bright, and they're getting dumber as time goes on. Yes, there are exceptions, but for the most part, they're not very bright. And they've been grown up with the sense of entitlement, and that sense of entitlement makes them feel like they deserve more than they have to work for. And you can't obtain knowledge and you can't obtain ability without working for it. So we have a bunch of incompetent, entitled people who are now reaching of age. They are now over 18. Some of them are over 30, and they're just not there. They're nowhere near there. They have not yet mastered the art of becoming an adult. So, do I think that they are being dumbed down? Absolutely. Do I think that they are being dumbed down intentionally, though? Now we're on to something. And yes, I do think that the students are being dumbed down intentionally. You see, when you understand this, you have to look at the full picture. And the only way to do that is to see how the schools are funded, first of all, who writes the curriculums, who causes to benefit from this, and what people at the top of the political structure have spoken on school systems, what have they said about them, and what is their stated agenda for them. And not only that, but once you understand that type of people who run these schools and create these curriculums to begin with, you could then understand why the students end up like they do. Because they have a very disrespectful and, if not condescending, view of humanity in general. And the political elite like the idea of maintaining their own power and keeping the society dumbed down, because the more dumbed down we are, the less able we are to fight against the tyrannies that overrule us, okay? So right now it's really a question of what is their agenda, because we already know what they're accomplishing. We already know they're dumbing the students down. We already know the students don't even know who the founding fathers are. They don't even know what the Constitution says. You know, they don't even respect their own privacy because they don't even know that their privacy is something that should be respected. Fourth Amendment, what's that? Second Amendment, what's that? First Amendment, what's that? Instead, what people are learning in school these days is that there's 96 genders. Which one are you today? Because you can change it tomorrow. You know, that's what kids are learning these days. And they're also learning that long style math problem solving thing. I don't even understand that. For me, I learned math the simple way. You create the numbers, put them in columns, add, subtract, multiply, or divide, boom, there's your answer. Move on to the next question. I mean, really, if it could be simpler, make it simpler. As long as it's right. But I think the students these days are dumbed down, absolutely. I think that the pharmaceutical drugs have also affected them. I think everyone these days seems to be diagnosed with some type of disease or disorder, and we are told, oh, you have ADHD, you have dyslexia, you have some kind of depressive issue. Let's put you on pills which have a million side effects, which in turn will create more problems. Yeah, let's make big pharma bigger. Let's make people more desperate and dependent on drugs. So if you think about it, how many people have ADHD these days, or ADD, or whatever the heck it's called these days? A whole bunch. A lot of people do, and they're diagnosed themselves, or doctors will come and diagnose them, and they'll accept the diagnosis, and they'll tell themselves, I'm broken, I'm damaged, I'm sick, I need these drugs. And then they take the drugs and they're all messed up in the head for life, and then they just become a drug addict for life. And they make pharmaceutical companies really rich until they finally die, and then the pharmaceutical companies have to prey on their kids to do it to them. So I think pharmaceutical drugs have a big part of this. I think fluoride in the water has a big part of this. Check your water supply, make sure there's no toxic fluids in there. Fluoride is terrible, and also industrial waste is not good to put in the water supply, so check the purity of your water. That's a big deal, believe it or not. Another issue is the food. People are eating and consuming a lot of GMO foods, and this in turn is breaking down their immune system, it's breaking down their bones, it's breaking down their muscle, and more importantly, it's making their brain go bye-bye. So we want to make sure that people are eating healthy, drinking the pure water that's not contaminated with industrial waste. We want to make sure that people are not being put into situations where they are being entertained constantly. Put them in a challenging situation. Make them earn something. Yes, absolutely. Give them Google Chromebooks. I don't know if that was the solution there. But yeah, they'd rather be playing video games, they'd rather be doing something monotonous and stupid. They'd rather be doing something where they don't have to apply their mind and challenge themselves to become something, to learn something, to feel the neurons in their brain connect and spark. Synapse. Have them look that word up. Synapse. Make them have some homework and say, okay, you guys have Google, right? You have internet, you have everything you need. Look up synapse and make sure that you're having a synapse every time you're in the classroom. Tell them that. See what they say. It'll be pretty funny. But back to what you were saying, absolutely. Kids are dumbed down. They're a lot stupider than they were a generation ago, or 2 generations ago for sure. 3 even more. I think the further back you go, the smarter the kids will be, because over time we've relied more and more on technology and on leftist agenda that has infiltrated the classroom and taken objectivity out of it. So I think that one thing that students really need to learn again is civics. That class was taken out before I was able to go to it. So I had to discover civics on my own. I had to research the history of this country, the role of the military, the role the Constitution plays in Congress, what Congress is, how voting's casted, how laws are created and passed and everything else, and why we have taxes, what they go for, and what they're designed to be. So there's a lot that I had to learn on my own because the school system failed to teach me. Also banking, how to open a checking account, how to pay my rent, what to do about my credit score, how to write a resume, on and on. There's lots of things that the school system does not prepare you for. Instead, they make you do something just to pass your time. It's like the students aren't really invested in anymore. Now we're just treating them like they're baggage, they're waste. They're making us have a hard time with our lives because they're a burden to us. We just want to give them something to distract them and get them out of our way. That's how parents are, and I guess now that's what they're making the teachers treat the students like as well. So it's really important that you invest into your classroom. If you have any control at all, I would suggest you have a very heartful speech in front of the classroom and you say something like this. Everybody, do I have your attention? Okay, great. What I want you to do is think about what you're doing here. Think about how you can best apply yourself so that way you can prepare yourself to become the best influence that you can be to the lives of others when you're an adult. What can you do now to nurture yourself and fill your mind with understanding and personal growth? What can you do? Don't treat the classroom like it's a joke. Treat it like it's an opportunity to learn and grow, and then you move on. That's it. You're wasting time. The years between 12 and 15 are very, very formative. Very formative. Probably the most formative of a human life. And those are the years where you have to really make it count. And if they're playing video games, that last little window of opportunity to build their mind into another phase is truncated, okay? So they're not having that opportunity to grow. So instead what they're doing is they're just placating themselves, wasting time, and then when the time comes where their mind is developed, they're now incompetent. They haven't passed the test of learning, of growth, of childhood. Okay? And they're still stuck in childhood when they're an adult. You don't want that. So I would actually talk to the classroom, ask them what they're doing here, ask them what their aspirations are, who they look up to, and then just start throwing out names like you just did with me. Talk about Thomas Edison, talk about Firestone, Burroughs, and Ford, and all these other people, and just keep naming more people. Tesla, name Franklin, then you can go into the founding fathers, you know, Jefferson, Adams, Washington, Madison, on and on and on, and then you can really teach them how to appreciate these figures, because these figures were real people that had real impact on this country. And if not for these people, we would not be having the freedoms we have here, the technology we have here, the convenience of life we have here. Let them really understand what life was like 200 years ago. Never mind Google, we didn't even have a car. Everyone walked, unless you had a horse and a carriage, which you had to build by hand or have someone build by hand for you. So there's a lot going on in this life today that should I say, was contingent upon the greatness of the past. And we need to always remember what greatness is and respect that, and stop looking up to these modern day celebrities like pop culture icons. We want to do away with the pop culture icons and focus primarily on people who have done great things. So it seems like you know some of the people who have made great impact on this world, and I just gave you a list of other names. You can keep going: Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, Tchaikovsky, on and on. You can name all these great figures of the past who have produced marvelous, phenomenal works, or who have forged humanity into the future with their creativity and inventiveness and creativeness and acuity of thought, okay? Their ability to function on a higher level, their ability to question things, ask the proper questions that will give them the answers that will fuel them to move forward, okay? It sounds like the students in your classroom have no brain at all. They're just sitting there like, is it 3 o'clock yet? I want to go home. No, you want to engage them, make them inspired and fired for life, you know, because life is going to be hard when they graduate. I'm assuming they're going to graduate even if they don't deserve to. But it's going to be hard, and it's going to be harder if they're not prepared. So it's good to be prepared, it's good to be knowledgeable about the history of this planet, the history of this country especially, and it's good to know what you need to know to prepare yourself for life. So if you have any control at all over the curriculum and what you're teaching in the classroom, I suggest you inspire them by teaching them about important figureheads of the past, what life used to be like, so that they can further appreciate what caused the lifestyle that they now take for granted to become a possibility, and to realize that Thomas Edison didn't play video games to create the light bulb, to create the television and film. Thomas Edison did not waste time. He worked all day long. He worked like 18, 20 hours a day, constantly working. He had a team of people working, and he also didn't really have a degree. He didn't really go to school very much. And guess what? He turned out one of the greatest geniuses the world has ever seen, along with Tesla, who never got the credit he deserved. But still, Edison was not just a genius, but also a phenomenal businessman. Shrewd, perhaps, but he was a great businessman. And it seems like kids these days don't even know anything about anything anymore. Like you have to have some kind of sense of responsibility for how these students develop while they're in your classroom. Try to have some influence upon them, even if it's a small influence, even if you just drop a seed and pour a little water on it and then push them on their way. Maybe they'll grow into something down the road. You know, you definitely have the right attitude about it. You definitely understand the problem pretty well. You have, I think, subconsciously you already have some solutions. I just suggest that you actually apply the solutions and really use the time that you have with the students to inspire them and to teach them about the people of the past, teach them about the lifestyles of the people of the past, how they didn't have what we have today and they were better off for it because apparently we don't know how to utilize things to our advantage anymore. We use them to our own destruction. So make sure you teach them not to utilize technology to their own destruction, but only focus on the technology that helps better them, helps evolve them, helps enhance their mind, okay? You want to be able to do that for them. So you have a great role as a teacher. You have an opportunity to influence them in a way that not many people do at a time in their life where everything matters. So I suggest, do what you can, absolutely. And as far as understanding the school system and how it's dumbing down the students, I do think this is an agenda. I do think pharmaceutical drugs are part of it. I do think GMOs in the food and fluoride in the water is part of it. I do think that pop culture icons in the media and how everything is, we're living in a world of lies and distractions right now. And it's important for students to get grounded, know who they are, and be able to separate themselves from all the noise. So I think the video games just kind of gives them like an escape route. You don't want to do that. You want to involve them. You want to engage them. And video games does the opposite of what you want. So instead of video games, just have a discussion. Talk about Thomas Jefferson today. What do you people know about Thomas Jefferson? What do you kids like about him? What do you not like about him? Okay, let's have a conversation. Oh, you like the fact that he wrote the Declaration of Independence. You like the fact that he freed his slaves, but you don't like the fact that he actually had slaves in the first place. Okay, I understand. Well, then we can talk about that. And then we can talk about his role as a founding father and his role basically against the British crown and what he was to help America maintain our independence, and his relationship with John Adams over time, and all the letters, and you can go on and on about the details, or move on to another figure, maybe whoever people want to talk about. Try to get people to talk about figureheads that are at least 3 generations back. You don't want them to talk about people today or people 1 generation ago. It's not enough to really give them the perspective. So push it back at least early 1900s, 1800s. And really talk about what made people great. And so that way they can aspire to obtain the same traits that these great people had and develop them, cultivate them within themselves so that they could too become their own version of what is great. So I hope that helps you. I hope that answers your question. Thanks for your question. If you have any more, send them to me, askpolymathgetty@gmail.com. And if you want to find me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Getty Friedman, Polymath and Renaissance Man. I am on Instagram, PolymathG. And I am on Twitter, but I'm hardly ever on there, so never mind Twitter. So yeah, there we go. I answered the question. I hope it helped. And if you have any more, you know where to send it. Please do like and subscribe. Please do pass this video around. Share the link with everyone and their moms. And we should be alright. So thank you very much. And take care. And I'll be back on this channel again shortly.